There are worse things than killing. You'll come to understand that on a particular day, in a particular church, in the year of 1818, a day you will spend the rest of your life trying to forget, and never quite managing it. A murder is a terrible thing, sure, but the murder is quick. What they ask of you in that church is slow and cold, and it will follow you home and sit at the foot of your bed in the dark for years. But that's ahead of you, for now it begins the way these things always seem to, with the body in the woods. You live in the north end of the county, up where the trees close in thick around a scatter of cabins, a place folks call Sharonville, though the name won't outlast a century. One day they'll call it Omega. For now it's just home, a Baptist church and a few farms, deep Ohio woods pressing in on all sides. It's in those woods, about 3 miles north of Waverly, that they find Lewis Sartain, shot, dead. No question about what happened. A man doesn't take a ball on the body by accident and lie down among the roots to die. This is murder, plain. And in a settlement this small, everyone already knows where the suspicion points. It points to Sartain's own brother-in-law, a man named Amos Williams. Williams was known to have been with him, out there, around the time it happened. That's enough to hang a rope of whispers around any man's neck. So they try him. And here's the trouble. The evidence is all circumstantial. Strong, mind you. Strong enough that everyone in that courtroom believes what they believe. But there's no witness, no confession, nothing solid enough to close a hand around. And so the court does the thing that law requires, and the town cannot forgive. They let him go. Amos Williams walks free back into the settlement, back among the very people who buried Lewis Sartain. And every one of them is certain they just watched a murderer stroll out into the sunlight. That kind of certainty doesn't fade. It curdles. It goes looking for another way. Several weeks pass. Sartain rots in his grave. And then a woman comes forward. Her name is Peters. And what she announces plainly. She has the power of a witch. And she can name the man who killed Lewis Sartain. Now you have to understand the world they're standing in. It's 1818. The frontier is a thin skin of cabins stretched over a darkness nobody fully trusts. Out here, the line between the church and older things brought over from the old country in the backs of people's minds, is thinner than any preacher would admit. So when a woman says she's a witch and says she can find the killer, people don't laugh her out of the settlement. They listen. Her method is old, older than Ohio, older than America, carried across the ocean in the marrow of the people who settled these hills. It's called the ordeal of the bier, and the belief behind it is simple and monstrous, that a murdered body remembers, that a corpse, no matter how many days in the ground, will know its killer's touch. And when the guilty hand comes down upon the dead flesh, the wounds will open and the blood will run fresh and bright, and the dead will accuse the living in the only language left to them. And the authorities, the actual authorities, the men with the actual power, decide to do it. So they open the grave. Understand what that means. Lewis Sartain has been dead for weeks, buried in the warm ground, and they dig him up. And they carry what's left of him to the old Baptist church, your church, the one you were baptized in, the one where you'll be buried yourself someday. And they lay him out where the pulpit ought to be. And they send word through the settlement. Everyone who could possibly have done this is to come. Every man with a shadow of suspicion on him is to be present and submit to the test. Just how you come to be standing in a line in a house of God, the smell of it already reaching you from the front of the room. The smell is unmistakable, putrid. It gets into the wood of the place, into your clothes, into the back of your throat. The body has been in the earth for weeks. It does not look like Lewis Sartain anymore. It looks like something the ground was in the middle of taking back, interrupted, dragged into the light before it was finished. The constable presides. His name is John Shepherd, and the weight of the thing is now on him. And one by one, he calls the names. You watch your neighbors go up. That's the part that will never leave you. Not the body, the neighbors. Men you've known your whole life, men you've traded with, worshipped beside, buried kin alongside. One by one, they're called forward into the breathless silence of that packed church, and one by one, they have to walk up to that ruined thing on the table and lay a bare finger across its rotting flesh. And every single soul in that room leans forward to watch for blood. Every person waiting to see if their neighbors is a monster. Every person who steps up knowing that the crowd is praying, half of them, for the corpse to bleed. Because a bleeding corpse means an answer, means it's over, means it's someone else. You stand in that line and you feel the eyes on the man ahead of you. And you know that when your turn comes, those same eyes will be on you. And you find yourself wondering in the cold sweat of it, whether an old dead thing might bleed for reasons that have nothing to do with guilt. Whether the test might lie, whether you might be the one it accuses for nothing, for no reason, and what a room full of certain, frightened people would do to you then. One after another they go up, one after another they touch it, and the body lies still. No blood comes. And the silence stretches tighter with every name, because the whole grim ceremony has one purpose, and it hasn't happened yet. Saving him for last. And then the constable's voice goes out across the church, and the name in it is the one everybody came to hear. Amos Williams, come up and examine the body of Lewis Sartain, supposed to be shot or murdered. The room stops breathing. This is the moment. Every person in that church believes in their bones that they're about to watch a dead man name his killer, that the wounds are about to open, that the dead is finally about to speak. And Amos Williams walk up. You watch him come. Whatever's in his face, you'll argue about it the rest of your life. You and everyone else who was there. Some will say he was pale. Some will say he was steady. The truth is he doesn't hesitate the way a guilty man should. He walks up to the rotting body of the brother-in-law he's accused of murdering in front of a church full of people waiting to tear him apart. And he lays his hand upon the dead. Nothing happens. No blood, no fresh red welling from the week's old wounds, no sign, no accusation. The corpse keeps its silence. Whatever Lewis Sartain knew, he takes it back down into the dark with him. Williams was the last one called. Tests had convicted no one, so there was nothing left to do, nothing at all but carry the ruined body back out to the grave they tore it from and put it in the ground a second time and go home. Historians will tell you this is the day that witchcraft died in Pike County, that the failure shattered the woman's power, and the old belief was never revived. And that's true as far as it goes, but that's not the end of the story, because the dead have a longer memory than the living, and the test that let Amos walk free was not the last word on Amos Williams. A year passed, 1 year, almost to the season, after Amos Williams laid his hand on a corpse and walked away clean, and Amos Williams gets into a fight. Not a trial this time, no church, no witch, no careful weighing of evidence, just a brawl with a hard and desperate man named Joe Mounts. In the middle of it, something comes down on Amos Williams' head and stoves in his skull. But here's the cruelty of it. Here's where the story turns from dark to something worse. He doesn't die. Not right away. His skull is broken in, crushed, the bone pressing down into the soft places beneath, and Amos Williams lies there, alive, with the wreck of his own head sinking into his brain. They send for a doctor, a man named Ellis, and Dr. Ellis looks at the shattered skull and reaches for the only thing he has that might lift the crushed bone back off his brain. He reaches for a carpenter's auger, a 3/4-inch wood auger, a boring tool, a thing meant for drilling holes in beams and planks. And Dr. Ellis sets that screw against the broken skull of a living man and tries to thread it in, to bite into the bone and lift the fragments up and out of the brain the way you draw a nail from a board. You can decide for yourself whether Amos Williams was conscious for any of it. The record doesn't say. The record only says that he died. Ellis was tried for malpractice and cleared, a man doing his crude best with a crushed head and a carpenter's tool. Joe Mounts was convicted of the killing and sent away to the penitentiary. And Amos Williams, the man a whole country tried to convict by the touch of a dead man, the man the corpse refused to name. Amos Williams went into the ground at last, with a hole bored in his skull, 1 year after he walked out of that church alive. So you're left with it. For the rest of your life, you're left with it. Did the test fail because Amos Williams was innocent? Or did it fail because the dead don't bleed? Because it was never anything but old country superstition, dressed up in a country church, a cruel theater that proved nothing, and buried a rotting man twice for nothing at all? Or, and this is the thought that comes back on the black nights, when the wind moves in, the trees up around Omega, and you remember the smell of that church. Did the corpse stay silent on purpose? Did Lewis Sartain hold his tongue in death and bide his time and wait a patient year for a harder man than any constable to do what the witch's test could not? You'll never know. But you were there the day they made the dead man's kin touch his rotting hand. You stood in that line. You smelled it. The smell that buries itself deep in your nose. You watched a man lay his palm on a corpse and walk away clean. And on the nights you can't sleep, your mind wanders to that name, Mounts. One of the first families to set foot in this valley, before it was even Ohio. And one of the first, it seems, to bleed in it. You think of another Mounts, years back and just up the road, a man named Asa, shot dead in the PP Bottoms over a quarrel nobody could name, the killing that put the first man to the rope in this young state. And now here's a Mounts again, but on the other side of it this time, not the body in the woods, but the hand that broke a skull. Same name carried from one end of a killing to the other across 20 years in the same few miles of river. You don't know how they're bound, brothers, cousins, strangers who share a grandfather. But you know the name, and you wonder on the black nights whether some families carry the blood with them, the way others carry blue eyes or a crooked smile. And you think to yourself, you've lived here long enough to notice that some names just keep turning up where the bodies are.